choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Three, two, 1, 0.
I got one thing to say about Cushenbery, which I call him Cushy. To me, he was the best customizer in our group. He was one of the best idea design guys, too. He was terrific. Bill was absolutely unbelievable.
Bill Cushenberry was among the most influential custom car designers and builders of the mid-20th century. Bill learned the art of metal shaping in his father's shop in Wichita, Kansas, but his dreams of building show cars took him to Monterey, California in 1957, where he opened a shop and began chopping and rebuilding factory cars into one-of-a-kind masterpieces like the El Matador. This car attracted a clientele seriously interested in show cars, and Bill built several that are legendary. But the car Cushenbery is best known for was called the Silhouette. With this first scratch-built custom car of its kind, Bill won the Tournament of Fame Award at the 1963 National Roadster Show in Oakland, California, and was thrust into the company of a small group of men who dominated the West Coast show car scene. After his success with the Silhouette, Bill designed and started building what would become his last custom car, the Silhouette 2 Space Coupe, a one-of-a-kind, handmade aluminum body on a Corvair chassis with a bubble top. And since the car was so low to the ground, his original design had no doors. You simply stepped into it. Here's Bill working on the Space Coupe in his Monterey shop in 1963. No doors. Meanwhile, down in North Hollywood, George Barris's shop had more work than they could keep up with. George encouraged Cushenbery to relocate near him, and as soon as Bill moved, Barris sent over his latest commission.
See how good Cushy was? I had him do all the fenders on our Batmobile. The car was all metal. I said, Cushy, I need help. I said, we got to get this thing done in 3 weeks. I'll be there, George. And he came down there, and he shaped those fenders out.
Bill continued work on the Space Coupe between commissions from Barris, and he refurbished cars for Steve McQueen and Frank Sinatra and several owners of Mercedes 300 SLs. The car that introduced gull-wing doors, which clearly inspired Bill with a new design idea for the Space Coupe. Here he is in his North Hollywood shop in 1966 fashioning gull-wing doors, although they don't hinge on top like the 350 SLs, but at the back of the bubble. Another Cushenbery innovation. Sadly, before Bill could finish the car, he had a falling out with his financiers and moved to another shop, thinking that once the dispute was over, he would get the Space Coupe back and finish it. That never happened, and the Silhouette 2 Space Coupe went missing for 3 decades, popping up in a few shops over the years, but ultimately lost to Bill forever. He passed away in December 1998. 5 months later, in May 1999, Carl Green, another car customizer, found the Space Coupe on a ranch in El Cajon, California, in terrible condition, having sat out in the elements for years. Carl hauled the much-abused car to Darryl Starbird's Rod and Custom Hall of Fame Museum in Oklahoma, where he patched it up enough to exhibit briefly, then stored it for several years until he moved it back to California in 2008. That's when I got involved. My name is Barry Gramillion. I began making a documentary about Carl Green's exciting enterprise to complete this historic car, and I financed the entire project. Willie Newman, a renowned aluminum body man from New Zealand, joined the team, and great progress was made until the end of December 2008. Carl's health was failing, and Willie left for Germany, so the completion of the Space Coupe was once again put on hold. We put the car into storage in Nebraska with Carl's nephew and my business partner, Roger Green, seen here with Gene Winfield and the Space Coupe. After Carl passed away in 2015, we retrieved the Space Coupe from storage and began the final phase of completing Bill Cushenberry's vision. Jeff Williams at California Corvairs is rebuilding the engine and drivetrain. With over 30 years' experience building unique cars, Paul Clark is using the same artistic and engineering skills and the same handcrafted metal shaping techniques to complete the Space Coupe that Bill Cushingberry employed to create it. Bill Cushingberry and Darrell were friends in the very beginning of their careers back in Wichita, Kansas, right?
Right. I started my shop in 1954. I called it Star Custom Shop. Bill was a friend at that time. He hung around the shop a lot and always talked cars, and we were friends in that relationship. Went lunch together occasionally, and just friends, normal friends. Mm-hmm. And he got the bright idea of putting in his own shop, and he called it Kansas Custom Shop. Oh. And it was about 8 or 10 blocks from my shop, and he even stole a few of my customers. But he only lasted in that shop maybe a year and a half at the longest. And he built a few cars in that time, not many, because cars were, at that era and that time, I had started my shop up. Custom cars were practically unheard of in
or hot rods.
Yeah,
people had hot rods, but not like these cars.
Not custom cars as such. A few hot rods, but not many. Most of it was all taking place on the West Coast, of course, in California.
Barris was already in action.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Winfield was already in. See, when I was in high school, they were already in business.
Oh, right.
And they were my idols, so to speak, when I was in high school.
They were your inspiration.
I wanted to grow up to be George Barris.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and their cars were in the magazines, and
right.
you were looking at the magazines.
That's where I got it from, the magazines. And Bill, he built a car for himself, a 50 Oldsmobile. It was really well done and for that period of time, was really a radical car. And when he got to California, he started up his shop there in Monterey, of course. Of course, him being close to me and related business-wise, he kind of spread the rumors that he was working Darrell Starboard to kind of get started.
So that's where it started.
That's where it all started.
Okay.
You know. But he never really worked for me on a salary type basis. But Bill's a heck of a craftsman, and he was even then. He was a real good metal man. Bill and I, we were friends long after that. He come here to the museum. We inducted him as one of the original 13 guys.
Right.
Inducted into it. And he was here every year for it, and was a great supporter.
So here we are in Hollister, California, with Don Varner. Don was a friend of Bill Cushingberry and worked with Bill for many years on the Silhouette, the original Silhouette in the El Matador.
In the El Matador, yeah.
Why don't you tell us how you guys met and started working together?
Well, one day I was at the Salinas drag strip, and this fellow walked up to my pickup, introduced himself as Bill Cushingberry, and said he'd just moved out from Kansas. He wanted to build a 44 coupe, and I think it was a 39 actually he started with. We used to go to a place called the Dog House. We'd sit over there and have coffee and do some sketches. And
on napkins.
On napkins, yeah. Right. That's really where the car was designed.
The El Matador.
The El
what
Matador.
Became the El Matador, right?
At the time, I had a 58 Corvette. And if you look at the Matador, you'll see a lot of 58 Corvette in it. Each one of the fenders had a concave. So that's what started that theme. And then if you notice on the trunk of the El Matador, there's 2 bars that come down.
Yeah, what was
and
that?
They roll underneath. Well, that's what was on a 58 Corvette, the chrome bars on the rear. We picked a lot of styling off of that and married it with the 44, chopped it just right, I thought. I always loved headrests, so I talked him into those 2 headrests that went in there. He could hammer weld right straight across a cut, say on the top one, we pieced when he pieced those parts back together, and he could hammer weld that and not have any work. And he did it the hard way, the old hard way.
And that was the first custom that he had done in that shop, or really anywhere. I mean, that was his first custom car.
Right.
And that put him on the map.
Instantly famous.
He was. And then the Silhouette. I mean, he won the big trophy, and they sent him to Europe and all that. And where did the idea come from on the Silhouette?
Well, he had already started, but he wasn't really in love with what he had at that point. And he had started that before I knew about it.
Was it scratch built, or was it?
Oh yeah.
The body was scratch built on a Buick chassis.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
With conduit, you know, for the basic frame, and
Right.
then he put the metal.
The super Leggera style.
Yeah,
right.
like they did in Italy.
Yeah, right. So he'd already started the silhouette, and
Yeah.
then you guys got
Yeah, we got our
Put our
heads
heads
together
together,
and we decided that we needed to change the shape, especially on the side. It was a tricky car to build because that was the first plastic bubble he had ever blown, and it's the first one I ever had anything to do with.
It seemed like that there were several cars that happened rapidly right after that. The Marquis,
was.
the Astro, the Dreamrod,
A lot
the
of
Limelighter. All
Yeah.
those came kind of quickly.
Bill's the finest metal man I've ever met, and he didn't have a lot of tools.
Yeah,
You know, he shaped
Simplicity.
everything by hand.
yeah. Hammers and torches and
Yeah.
and lead.
Yep. That's all we do use is lead because we hated Bondo.
Bill seemed to have evolved, especially with the Space Coupe, which, like I said, he started in Monterey. But at first, it had no doors because it was so low to the ground. You just stepped into it.
Right.
Just recently, we found photographs that had never been seen before of Bill from 1966 of him working on
On a gull wing.
on the Space Coupe with the gull, and he was just developing the gull wings, and that was just before he lost the car.
This car will be world famous.
Oh yeah.
We were walking down the main drag in Castroville, and I looked off the side and said, man, I've got to see this, you know. And I walk up and look in there, and here's the Matador. And I said, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen in my life. This is the whole car was just, blew me away. The paint job was like nothing I'd ever seen before, you know. And I was a painter myself anyway. I've been painting, started striping cars in the 50s, you know. But when I seen that, it just blew me away. And Cushenbery and all this, I never heard of Bill before, and you know, I got to go see him. So we went over into Monterey, Seaside area, and found his shop. And there was a chain up there, Keep Out. And beautiful. There's Gene Boucher's golden marquee, but it wasn't gold then. It was actually a blue pearl, and it was very pretty. And I never seen anything like that. It just blew me away. And he said, can I help you? I said, well, no, I'm from Kansas. And he said, oh, what part of Kansas? I said, McPherson. He goes, oh, Mactown, huh? I says, yeah. I says, I got a lot of friends in Mac. And we had a nice conversation, and I told him how much I loved the Matador and how great it was. And I was just excited over it. It really got me jazzed up about painting, you know, more than I was already. Ended up getting a job with him later on, so everything worked out fine. Through this friend of mine, this George Ross, that I'd worked with at another body shop. He went to work at a place called Lance Incorporated, which was Bill's old shop, that these guys were taking over Bill's business, and Bill was phasing out of that business. And I went in and painted a Mercedes-Benz enamel job, and Bill came in and he really liked the work, and he offered me a job, you know, if I ever need work, you know, and something don't work out here, just to give him a call. And so a few months later, I worked there about 6 months with George Ross. And he was doing the Ford Custom Caravan stuff, and that Bill was supposed to have done, but Bill was out of the picture because he had opened up his new shop in Burbank, and where he was working on the KHJ Surfing Bird. Bill was he was really nice to me. He just really, and we just hit it off because we're both from Kansas boys, you know, and so I got to paint Frank Sinatra's car, and the Silhouette, I painted it a couple times. We had to get it ready. In 9 weeks, we had to have Sinatra's car done, and we had to have the Silhouette painted, and heading out for St. Louis, Missouri for the big show at the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis. It had been on the show circuit for quite a while. It'd been set for a few years. He'd had it leased out, and then he got it back and restored again. The first time I had seen this thing, Bill he asked me, he said, have you seen my little aluminum car? I says, no, I haven't yet, but I heard somebody say something about it. It was in the back room, and I didn't want to go and it's no taller than this, you know. It's just beautiful, and all this aluminum work on it, and then these beautiful elliptical wheel wells that was just done, and all this beautiful gas welding. I was so impressed with all of the metal work and everything, and the bubble top. It's just a very pretty car. This is in North Hollywood, right where Vineland and Lancashire crisscross. Lance Incorporated, these the two fellows from Boston that Bill partnered up with, but the partnership went sour, so that's when Bill left. And I'm not really sure of where the car actually started its construction, but I knew it was pretty well on its way when I seen it. I think it just came from Monterey, where this Roden, an artist, R-O-T, he had done I'd seen a sketch that he had done of the car, and he was from that area, I think.
It was a very interesting and exciting time in the United States, and I guess the world, because Kennedy announced that we were going to go to the moon. The Jetsons were on TV, were part of that on TV. The little cars you would zip around on,
Right.
and the bubble tops on the cars. So your car is one of those. I was in Salinas area and was close with Bill from 1962 to 1966. In the beginning, his shop was on Del Monte Boulevard, down from the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey. That's where the Silhouette was built, the Silhouette 1. And I watched the construction of that car all the way through. I'd become acquainted with Bill at a car show in San Jose when he presented the Matador, which was a 44 that he had chopped and sectioned and done a lot of work on. These were drawn in 1962 or 63, 64. And it started with this Delta with a bubble. And as we talked about it more, the idea of using a Corvair engine, you see, came into play, because then we could have a chassis that was low, and the engine could be mounted at a very, very low position within the chassis, which didn't interfere with developing this pointed nose on the front like we wanted, showing how the bubble top might be done with the wing and the intake for the engine above. Again, double cars. And again, these are 50-year-old drawings.
This is the evolution of the Silhouette.
That's correct. Now you see we're starting to get for the rear shape. And another one. See on the bubble. But in your car, what we had in mind here was the front. And the bubble. The wheel was tucked on way underneath here, But the bubble itself, we hadn't worked out any details with respect to whether there should be a door cut on the side or whether the sill would be too high or too low to get in, whatever. And these intakes up here were to be oil coolers for the Corvair engine.
So the car probably was started there, and then when he moved down, he brought it back up here, and then he had been there for a year or so already. So I'm not aware of that time span, how much was done on the car. Lance moved in, and they offered a partnership and going to help bail him out of every money problems and stuff. That only lasted probably maybe 6 months to a year or something like that. When their business went sour, that he just stopped working on it, and they took possession of the car, and he just went ahead and moved over to Burbank Boulevard, and opened up his shop over there, where he did the Batmobile and the KCA Surfing Bird and a few other cars. He didn't want anybody else finishing his car without his input, Nobody touched the car. Yeah. But he loved the car. I mean, we always went and doodle on napkins about different little things he had planned to do with it and all this, and he's always a great artist too, doodling like that. Still drawing up plans about things he'd like to do to it and stuff like that, but the car wasn't his anymore to do it, but he didn't want anybody else to work on it, In '74, I moved from Ventura back to Bakersfield and opened up a shop on Buck Owens Boulevard there. Asked Bill if he wanted to come down and work out of the shop, so we were together a couple of years there, and he kind of gave up on customs completely for a while and just went into Porsches, strictly just doing Porsches and stuff for a few years.
We enjoyed everything about because to me, every car that he's done was the best. The workmanship was a craftsman. He was a quality man. And the best part, he was fun. The great fun guy. To me, like I said, he was, again, the top of the heap.
A very, very good metal shaper and worker. Very particular. Odd hours, though. He liked to put in hours at midnight till 6 in the morning and things like that. And I just wasn't used to that. But I went along with him because I loved the guy. A lot of people don't know this. The Batmobile, when it was first started, was the Lincoln Futura. And it got sent over to Bill's shop with the artwork to start. I worked on that aluminum car you were talking about. I worked on that with him. But I just couldn't get along with his hours.
Yeah.
His hours just, my wife didn't like it, you know, and I couldn't get used to it. But I went along with him because I loved the guy. I mean, he was just very nice to work with and easy and yeah. We're good. That's it.
I knew about Bill and I met him a couple of times at shows. Well, then I never really got acquainted with him until we started doing the custom car caravan, the AMT, you know, thing where we traveled around the country, and then I did a lot of shows with Bill. See, Bill and Barris didn't get along really well, so they would put me and Bill together and we'd do a show. So I did a show with him in Florida, and we went out on a boat. We went out and I went water skiing in Florida, and I met Bill and his wife, and that's where we really got acquainted. And after that, we were really good friends.
I'll start off with how I became acquainted with Bill, and it all started actually with the Marquis, which was the '56 Ford that Bill radically customized in his shop in Monterey. The car was built originally for Gene Boucher, and it became a mild project, turned into a major project over the years, and evolved into a car being sectioned and other parts being grafted on and sculpturing. It came out quite extremely radical. Gene showed the car for a year, a little over a year, and put the car away in the garage for many, many years. And I wound up acquiring the car. The only modification I did on the Marquis was something that Bill had wanted to do to finish the car, and that was to redo the rear wheel wells. He didn't like the way that they came out and wanted to revamp them and bring them down lower. So that was done in the process of the restoration of the body and the body work. So finally the Marquis was finished and went on the show circuit and did very well. Bill was very, very creative. He liked to build exotic, one-off prototype cars. That was really where his heart was. If you look at some of the cars that he built, such as the Silhouette, the Marquis, these cars were really built for one person, and they were show cars. And that's the type of thing that Bill always strived to do, was to make something so unusual, using his talents and exposing his capabilities of making something that would draw people to the car, and they would go around it and look at and find many, many little detail works. That was what Bill's design work was all about.
Well, we've come here to Lompoc, California. This is Bruce Heather, who came down from Seattle for the show. Bruce is a old friend of Bill's. Tell us about when you first came in contact with Bill.
Yeah, I first met Bill in March of 1963 in Seattle at the first Seattle Roast Show. He had brought the Silhouette there He had a silhouette on the display. I was in the 10th grade, and it was really something to see that car.
Had you seen it in magazines?
No.
Oh, it had never been seen before?
No, not yet. And I had seen that 44 that he worked on, Bob Crespo car the year before at the World's Fair car show. He had that car there. That was a feature car. Les Popo. That started as a 44 coupe.
It's quite a car.
Yeah.
You were telling me about the conversation you had about the Space Coupe.
Bud Millard and Bill Cushenberry and myself were sitting at a picnic bench at a table in Paso Robles in 1998, just 6 months before he passed away. He was talking about that car, and he wished that he could find it, but he had no clue what happened to it. And he'd talk about it often. He really wanted to find it.
Isn't it interesting that just about a year exactly after that conversation is when it was found in terrible condition in May 1st of, it would have been 1999, so it was the year after you had that conversation. When we found it, the owner of this ranch was about to, Bob Butts, was about to send it off to be crushed. We salvaged it. Just before we go, the Space Coupe was here when Carl first found it. He brought it out here, and you helped him patch it together. No restoration, just patched it together enough. And it was in your museum, sat in the museum for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Before he brought it back to California when I got
We
involved
probably
with
had it about 5 years total.
Yeah.
I would guess something like that. Put a little bubble top on it.
Yeah, it fit quite nicely. Did you know about the Space Coupe when Bill was working on it?
Bill told me about the car numerous times. Yeah, every time he was here, we'd talk about it. I thought he was going to finish it.
Yeah, sure he did too. Anyway, it went south, and he walked away from the car. And he mentioned it, that last interview that he did here at your place in 1997. They asked him, did you do any other cars? And he said, yeah, well, there was this one that got away, and it was going to be a wild thing with gull wings and a bolt top. And he described, and he was talking about the Space Coupe. He never mentioned the name. The silhouette was this one solid bubble that hinged at the front. The Space Coupe started out that way. Jim Roten told us that originally it was going to have no doors. It was just low enough to the ground, you just step in, and there was a solid bubble that hinged from the front, just like the Silhouette. And we have pictures from 1963 of Bill working on this car in that configuration, no doors, solid bubble, in 63 in the shop in Monterey. However, when he moved down to North Hollywood, one of the jobs that came into his shop were these Mercedes 300 SL, the famous gull wing doors. Bill obviously fell in love with these gull wing doors. Presto, gull wing doors. I'm calling them bat wings now because gull wings open like this. They open like this. You know how bats' wings, they come from the shoulders up like this. So I don't know if bat wings works, but they're not gull wings. So I don't know what I can't.
Bat wing sounds good to me.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you again, Daryl. Thanks so much for everything that you've given to the world of custom cars and make life on Earth a lot more pleasurable.
Well, actually, the pleasurable part was mine.
Yeah,
being able to build what you wanted your whole life.
Amazing, yeah.
And your hobby before that.
You've had kind of a blessed life.
I've had a very blessed life.
One time you had told me about after Bill lost the car, walked away from the car, that you saw it on the street or somewhere.
I saw it at a body shop, and I recognized it, and then I called up Bill and told him it was there, and I said, I want to buy it. He got mad. He didn't want me to buy it because he didn't want it to be a Gene Winfield car. And I wouldn't have done that anyway. I would have, definitely had it originally built by Bill Cushingberry. And then I didn't know that it was at Bob Butts' place.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was there, or I would have bought it.
Yeah, nobody knew until it was found.
Sitting there in the weeds.
I know.